first thing I tell the students, hey, look, I'm 65 years old, guys. I said, I don't talk it, I don't look it, I'm here to help, and I believe that with this gift, God's given me a chance to touch the people that, other people wouldn't be able to touch. And mainly by being straight up and honest with this younger generation, man. Just be honest with them. Don't hold back. Be honest, be consistent, and share with them, the knowledge that we have.
Welcome to Making Sparks, the podcast where we ignite your passion for metal fabrication and fuel your business success. Join industry leaders and dive deep into the world of metalworking. From business insights to tips of the trade, Making Sparks is your forge of knowledge. During each episode, discover success stories, innovative solutions, and expert interviews that light the path to business growth. Subscribe today and grow and improve your company, and let's make sparks fly together.
Welcome back to Making Sparks. I'm your host, finally sitting here with my co-host, Matthew Nix. This is our 4th episode, but the first time we're back together again.
Gang's back together.
I think I'm getting fired because Lindsay seemed to be really good. But we're sitting here with a really special guest, Santiago Rivera. And we're gonna
like the great baseball player.
We're sitting here at the Multi-Press booth. I want to say thank you to Multi-Press. They're letting us use this booth. We're gonna talk about an award he got here at FabTech, literally like right before he came over here to sit down with us. But Santiago, just give us just a background on how you ended up where you are.
I was born in Puerto Rico. Many years ago, I'm going to be 65, and many years ago. But I had a mom and a dad at one point, and my dad literally left the family, and my mom took over.
Were you in the U.S. by then?
Yeah. My dad was a jockey in the horse racing industry, so we floated around a lot. New Jersey, Kentucky, New York, South Florida, Tropical Park, all those races. I was a spoiled brat because my dad, having the pull that he had within the racing industry, I was able to even watch Secretariat run back in the day when kids weren't allowed in. So that part of my life, then around the age of 11, my dad left the family, just basically vanished, disappeared. In school, I was a great student. I loved school. I didn't skip. All through elementary, junior high, high school, I was the only one in the neighborhood that I would refuse to skip. But I spent summers at my mom, when she went back to school and started working at Keller Industries. I would spend summers there watching my mom work. And last thing I ever wanted to do was to weld. She had sandblasters and painters working. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I want to be a lawyer, all my friends turned out to be lawyers, and that's what I was being bred for until I got into high school. And I realized, I want to be a lawyer, but I don't want to walk. I want to take the bus. My mom, she spoiled us. Her showing us love was basically giving us stuff. So I approached her. I said, I wanted a car. I'm not going to go to school. And that's when she, like I shared, she brought her welding foreman and said, here you are, Johnny, take Junior, and I want him to learn how to weld if he wants a car. So the old man, Johnny, took me in, and the first thing he asked me was, are you right-handed or left-handed? I said, I'm right-handed. I said, okay, we're going to learn with your left hand. And I literally learned how to weld with my left hand. I became ambidextrous. I thought it was stupid at first. It made no sense to me, but years later, it proved to be, an advantage, within the industry. When other people had to use mirrors or had to, change directions, all I had to do was change torch and rod and be able to reach a weld that I couldn't reach with my right hand. But I started welding and literally working with my mom. We had 105 welders. As I got out of high school, because I told her I wasn't going to go to college, started working with her full-time as a welder. And about 2 years later, old man Keller came up to me and said, you're 18, now you're about to be 19, I want you to be the welding foreman. And I was like, me? And he says, yeah, you got your mom's blood in you, you can do this. And I'm thinking, I'm 19 years old with 105 welders. Are you kidding me? But Johnny, the old man, was retiring, and Johnny Veterano told him that I should be the one running the welding department. And literally, that's what I did for about 6 years until the company went bust. After that, I went to work at Eastern Airlines. Eastern Airlines, I was hired because out of 300 employees that they sent us to San Francisco, I was the only one that could weld aluminum the way they wanted. So got in there, started welding, and just everything blossomed from there. You know, like I said, I got in good with the older guys, learned about, you know, welding titanium, magnesium, chromoly. Got into the stress relief department, learned how to run the EB welder. And after Eastern closed down in 91, I went back to work for a furniture company. And about a year after that, I got a headhunter chased me down and offered me, said that they had a contract opening for a welder for NASA. And I'm thinking, NASA? What's NASA? And I didn't think it was to NASA in Orlando, Hookup Beach. And literally, I went there, tested, and they hired me. Was there 18 months. Used what I learned at Eastern Airlines with them there, plus a lot more that I learned there from, once again, being upright with the old guys and having them come in and take me under the wing. Worked that contract. From there, I went to Boeing in Seattle for a stint. And a couple of years after that, I came back to South Florida. I started working for Apache Marines. Back in the day, it was a company, Apache Marine, which made the cigarette boats. And I welded on their exhaust systems there for their new test engines they were working on. And literally after that, I went back to work for this little furniture company and stayed there for about 17 years until it was time for me to move to North Carolina. And moved to North Carolina, went there with a company, and after the bust of the back in 2007, I think it was, ended up opening my own shop. And me and my wife spent 15 years at the shop there, and that's when my life changed. I mean, I went from, I'll be straight up, at one point in my life, which I skipped this, but I was a homeless crackhead. I went from 175 pounds to 125 pounds, living in the streets of Hollywood Beach, Florida. But the weirdest thing is that I love welding so much, I never missed a day of work. You know, I was a functioning crack addict. And when we moved to North Carolina, everything changed. You know, the biggest thing for me, and this is my faith when I do talk about it anywhere, you know, Jesus Christ came into my life, you know, and I became a completely different animal, you know. I realized that, you know, that nothing was the same anymore. You know, and that started me on a whirlwind. You know, when we opened up our shop, you know, my shop was opened up to whoever came in and needed help. You know, I mean, I would trade labor. I would, you know, I had people come in and say, hey, man, you know, I want to learn how to fabricate. I want to learn how to weld. What can I do? I said, well, you know what? Give me your muscle and come and work. And I would have, you know, I would have people come in and sit with me for a few months. They would do labor and I would teach them how to work. Did that, like I said, for 15 years. And one night, my wife came up to me and said, I think it's time to go back to South Florida. And she came into my office. I was there working about 11 o'clock. She came into my office and said that I pulled out a note that I had written because I felt that I was being told that it's time to go back to South Florida. What good is my salvation if my family's going to hell? So we packed up everything. We moved. We gave back a bunch of money in deposits. You know, people were not happy, but it was the right thing to do. And yeah, things changed for my family then. And ended up working for the city of Fort Lauderdale for a few years. And literally, once again, God spoke and we moved back to North Carolina. And lived in a small town for about 2 years. And my wife comes up to me one day and says, babe, I want to go to D.C. And I was like, no, babe, I'm not moving, living in D.C. But once again, fishing on my kayak, I hear the words that, Junior, she's done everything you wanted to do for 18 years. It's time to go. Time to do what she wants. And that's what I did. Went home and I said, "You want to go to DC, babe?" She goes, "Yeah, I feel we need to go to DC," and it's the best thing we ever did because the doors that God has opened for me since, here at the college and the lives, my life has changed, my wife's life has changed, and those students, and then what I'm doing now. I came there 3 years ago on a whim. As much as I've been wanting to teach, I never thought I'd be able to teach at a program like this. And literally, I came there because they were going to terminate the welding program. And I left a good-paying job to go and help out. I figured, okay, I'll do it for a semester, and that's it. And I opened up my big mouth when the students were asking me if I was going to come back. I said, yeah, I'll be back. So literally 5 months later, me and my wife are looking at our finances, and we're like, oh boy, we're in trouble. But I gave my word, and my wife even agreed. She said, you told them you were coming back, so you got to come back. So that's why I came back. Came back that following spring, but I learned not to. When they started asking me towards the end of the semester, I said, look, all bets are off. I don't know if I'm coming back or not. All depends today, what the position they're going to give me. And I ended up literally leaving. I resigned, and 2 months later, they offered me the full-time position. I went to teach at Lincoln Tech that whole summer because I told them, look, I signed a contract with Lincoln Tech, so I can't teach your summer classes. So as soon as my contract was over with Lincoln Tech, I went back to Northern Virginia Community College, which was the right move. I love it. We've been able to grow the program. When I was there were 42 students. Now we have 123.
Wow.
With a waiting list of 36. This is the biggest class that they have ever had. This semester that just started in the fall, we've gone from 2 intro classes to 4, and we literally could have had 6 if we had the instructors. And it's been a blessing. It's been a blessing.
What do you think the big resurgence is, or the big surge in?
I hate sometimes to boast a little bit, but I believe that my presence there, and then the team that has come around me, the team that has come in and helped. I have a great team working. We applied for a NSF grant, almost $700,000, which I didn't even know what a PI was until, to me, a PI was a private investigator. Then I find out that a PI was principal investigator on the grant. And literally, we wrote the grant up in 3 weeks, got accepted. And it's been I'll be straight up, it's been a godsend ever since. We've been able to do a lot of things. We are no longer, at one point there at the college, we were the pink elephant in the living room nobody talks about. And even professors there did not know that they had been there for 5, 6, 7 years, didn't know that we had a welding program until they saw my shirts. I bought my own custom shirts, and I'm walking around meetings with program head instructor of welding department and having professors come up to me, we got a welding program here, and literally what has happened, now everybody's talking about us, and it's not just me, it's just the team that has come around and the support I've gotten from other departments. We have a stent department that when we first got there, we didn't even have grinders. Students didn't grind. We had old analog machines that were 20 years old. And I got in, I met one of the guys that run the stent department, and they were the big department on campus with all the money. And he literally said, what do you need? I said, dude, I need some welding machines, but it's not going to be cheap. He said, just give me a number. And I gave him the number and didn't hesitate. He funded, took out of his budget, and brought it over, and we got some new Miller machines, and it's just been running ever since. And two, also, one thing that I share a lot is you got to be upfront with these kids. They know when you're full of crap. I don't know if I can say that, but they know when you're not being honest, and they like honesty, man. That's one thing that they get in my class. Straight up, they know what to expect from day one. I say I'm just no nonsense with them, and I understand, and they respect it because they want the guidance. We sometimes stay away from being a little bit demanding, And, you know, if we are demanding from the beginning, they accept it because they want it.
Hey guys, it's Nick from Making Chips, and I gotta tell you about our new show, Lights Out. When someone talks about being lights out, what comes to mind? For me, it's Michael Jordan, he's got the ball, the game's on the line, or it's Leo Messi taking that ball up to take a penalty in a penalty shootout. These guys are elite, and they're unstoppable, and you just know they're not gonna miss. But I also think about the technology, automation, process, and most importantly, the mindset of the manufacturing leaders with the best shops in the world. Every episode will equip and inspire you to run lights out so you can sleep soundly while your shop never stops. Because we all know, if you're not making chips, you're not making money. So check out the new Lights Out podcast by Making Chips. I will see you there.
I think people crave structure and order more than anybody really recognizes. And I think that's was something we really lost in our society. And so I applaud you for bringing it back. I've really come to notice in our organization, some of our best leaders have a very, I mean this in a fatherly, loving kind of way, but a very authoritative leader in a way that's like, we're no nonsense. Yeah. This is the way we do it, and you're going to get on board or move on. And most of the time, people assimilate to that pretty quickly. And I think as human beings, we crave law and order and structure a little more than what we sometimes let ourselves admit and let ourselves believe.
And that is completely true. You know, and that's what I have seen, and that's what you know, I believe that being that way has has gotten our department the accolades that it's getting and the notoriety that we're getting within the community. You know, I mean, I have parents that come up to me and say, "And thank you for being, a little bit tough on my son when we're not," and I like that. When I get that kind of feedback, it's exciting because I know that I'm doing the right thing, and that my team is doing the right thing. And that's the one thing. The main thing is being consistent. You can't say you're going to do this, you're going to be this way, then you're going to slack up a minute. You got to treat everybody the same way, but you got to be consistent. That's what this younger generation wants, and just being in this, especially in our area, being in this format of teaching that I'm teaching. I've taught my whole life. Even if I wasn't in a format like this, if I had my own shop or if I worked with somebody else and I saw a young person that might be in the shipping department and he's busting their butt, you know what? Hey, you want to learn how to weld? Tell you what, swallow your sandwich at lunchtime and come sit with me for 30, 20 minutes, and that's what I would do. And now being in this setting, it's a blessing, One of the things that I've also recognized that a lot of these students that come especially into our school, it's for a lot of them it's their last hope, because some of them just the college thing just isn't for them, and they come in, with feeling that I got to do this. If I don't do this, what am I going to do the rest of my life? And when I hear those stories, that I get a little bit personal with the students. When I hear those stories, it just makes me want to help more, and want to push them because, one, you shouldn't feel that way, and two, society, by taking away these trade schools, and feeding that, every student has to go to college to be successful. It's not true. It's never been true, because not every student is meant to go to college. Myself, I was being bred to go to college. I was supposed to be a lawyer, but I was a spoiled brat, and my mom did very well for herself, and when I was going into high school, I didn't want to take the bus and I wasn't going to ride my bike. So my mom said, well, you want a car? Guess what? Go with Johnny Veterano, the welding foreman, learn how to weld. I'll get you a car. A month later, I had my car out front. But the thing was that I fell in love with welding. I no longer wanted to go to college, And a year later, when my mom says, well, what are we going to start doing about college? I said, Mom, I want to weld. She goes, what? No, you're not going to weld. But I told her, yeah. And it was the right thing. I'm the only one in my family that decided to take, the hands-on route instead of the brains-on route. And it's been fantastic, man. It's been awesome. It's been an awesome ride, and I want to see other students like Miss Annabelle over there, just open doors and just teach her what I was taught, because I had some great mentors. One of the things that I share with students is welders are either going to like you or you're not going to be working there for long. If you go in with the wrong attitude, you're not going to get help. You go in with the right attitude, welders will teach you, pull you aside, and that's what has happened to me. I've worked with Eastern Airlines, and I got in with the older guys. I got in learning about titanium, magnesium, electron beam welding and all that because my attitude was a little bit different. And I want to teach that to the students that, hey, you go in with the right attitude, you will learn a lot from the older guys, because we want to teach them. We want to share what we know.
I've talked about this on the podcast before. My dad, 40-something years in HVAC. He went after the Navy, went in the HVAC. And I said one of my proudest moments was when I was filming at our local community college. My dad was teaching there after he retired. This was this past year. And he wasn't teaching at the time. And I went and we were actually learning about the programs we were going to be filming. I went to the director of HVAC, and the guy, I said, yeah, my dad teaches here. And he goes, who's your dad? I said, Fred Velker. And he stands up, he goes, I got to shake your hand. He goes, your dad is just one heck of a guy. And all this. And it was so cool because that was the second time that I experienced that he was like growing up, I was like, yeah, my dad's the air conditioner guy. Like, I didn't really think much about it. I saw him at our school. He'd work at our school's air conditioner and all this. But at his retirement, how many people show up at his retirement party and celebrated him and things like that. And I think that's opened my eyes, especially since in the last, 5 to 8 years, I've been in a more blue-collar industry doing videos and stuff like that. And so hearing you talk about like you realizing where you wanted to go, it makes me think I'd probably be honest to say I probably didn't think I knew my dad was smart, but I didn't really think anything of it, right? So.
Well, it's a little bit of odd you bring that up because until recently, when I was nominated for this award, I did not think much of my mom's place in the welding industry. This was a woman that, you're talking about the middle 70s, early 80s, and here she is with 105 welders working for her. I didn't realize until recently that's powerful, because back then it just didn't happen. It really doesn't happen now. But, it always brings back a story. I was 12, 13 years old in my mom's office, and a welder she just hired came in. Johnny, the foreman, brought him in, and he said, Maria, you got to talk to this guy. So my mom said, what's going on? He says, I can't do what you want me to do. I don't think it can be done. And I did not know that my mom knew how to weld. When she went in her file cabinet and pulled out a welding helmet, and I'm looking, and I'm literally inside, I'm laughing, because I'm like, yeah, right. Come on, Mom. What are you going to do? And 30 minutes later, they come back in. My mom's sweaty. She takes off the helmet, puts it in the cabinet, and the guy says, I think I can do it now. And my mom looked at him and said, I'm glad you can do it, but I don't need you anymore. And she said that, and she said, and he looked at her and said, what do you mean? If I got to do the job for you, I don't need you. And I thought my mom was harsh, for doing that, but I realized she did the right thing, because she had a point, and she set a foundation in my mind that, if you're going to be leading people and you have to do the job for them, you don't need that person. You need to find somebody that can do the job so you don't have to. Yeah. But yeah, this last couple of weeks since this award that came up from WEMCO and American Welding Society, I hadn't looked at the impact that, my mom in a sense was a pioneer. She had 105 welders working for them. Half of them were union, the other half was not union. But she treated them, we were steelworkers union back in South Florida, but she treated all of them the same. So whatever the contract for the steelworkers got, she passed it on to the non-working. And I remember we did a story on that many years ago, Channel 10 News, on my mom, and I hadn't thought about how, what an impact she has made, in the welding industry for that, but in my life.
How did your mom end up running a welding company?
Well, my dad left when I was 11 years old. So my mom was a stay-at-home mom. So she ended up going back to school. Went back to school. She got a job with a company back in the day called Keller Industries. Back then, in the 70s and 80s, they were a huge company. And she got hired on as a shipping clerk, okay, just working in shipping while she was going through school and raising 3 kids. And literally she worked her way up, to general manager and vice president of that section of Keller Industries, and like I said, I just never really thought about, man, what an impact she had on me. And I say that because with the last 3 weeks, people get older and they get dementia and dealing with this stuff. And I got a call a couple of weeks ago from the police down in South Florida. Is Maria your mother? I said, yes, sir. Well, she's here. And when he gave me the address, I was like, what do you mean she's there? She doesn't drive. And he said, no. Apparently she walked from somewhere. She walked from the house that I grew up in to the plant she was vice president at. She walked in that plant thinking she was going back to work.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, that made me and my sister, we had to make some decisions and put my mom, in a home, where she'll be safe and taken care of, and, we can visit, because up to that point, I had gone down for 3 weeks, and it was the same time that I left that she came, that she started just walking, and literally, like I said, with this award and with what's going on, I realized that, I'm looking at all these women now in the industry, and I said, my mom, we would have had video and stuff back then, she would have been right there.
Yeah.
So she blessed me. She blessed me with the opportunity to do something that I was meant to do. And to add a little bit more to that, as I shared in the award ceremony, she shared a dream with me many years ago, talking about 25, 30 years ago. And the dream was that we have family here in Chicago, that I was going to be receiving an award in Chicago. And that came to fruition today. So yeah, that's a little bit about my mom.
Hey guys, it's Nick from Making Chips. I want to give you 3 quick reasons why you should check out Mike Payne's podcast, By the Numbers. Mike, my good buddy, my partner on Making Chips, is full of wisdom. He's full of experience. He's full of what it takes to buy, sell, and lead a business, specifically a manufacturing business. So all the numbers that you should be focused on to improve your performance, that's what he's the master at. The second reason, Mike's the first person I call. If I'm looking at a new idea, a new partnership opportunity, a new acquisition, any new initiative where I need to dive into the numbers and figure out how to approach it, Mike is who I go to. And third, you got to love that buttery Tulsa King voice that Mike rocks. It just soothes your soul. It gives you the confidence to elevate your leadership. Jokes aside, if you love making chips, or if you're just passionate about improving your business performance and the financial performance of your company, check out By the Numbers by Making Chips, hosted by my good buddy, Mike Payne.
And this is full circle for me, man. Being able to teach welding, teach something that my mentors, of what we shared, you got to share this. We're teaching you, I'm teaching you, Santiago. I want you to share this, and that's where I'm at now, and I believe that everything that is happening, even at the college it's beyond me, man. It's beyond me. I mean, I've had students, give their lives to Christ in my classroom. I've had students come up to me that have never asked anybody to pray for them. And a lot of those same students have some great jobs now in the welding field, and that's for me, that's what it's about. I've been given a gift, and I know that God gave me this gift for a reason, and to be able to impact students. It's like I tell students, my first day of class, the first thing I tell the students, hey, look, I'm 65 years old, guys. I said, I don't talk it, I don't look it, I'm here to help, and I believe that with this gift, God's given me a chance to touch people that, other people wouldn't be able to touch, and mainly by being straight up and honest. I tell the students that, one of the biggest things that I also share, that there's the misconception about welders. I was in the field for over 40 years. I've done it all, shutdowns, I've done it all. And there's a misconception in the industry that, welder has to have a long beard, he's got to have tattoos, he's got to have piercings. he's got a curse, you know, and we're not all like that. Yeah, you know what? There's a bunch. That's cool. That's part of the industry. It's cool. But I like to share that, hey man, you know, in my classroom we're not going to have no cursing. You know, I get some feedback sometimes, but by the time the semester's over, I haven't had a single student who hasn't come up to me and said, I like your classroom. I said, no cursing, huh? He goes, yeah, that's been hard for me, but I realize you're right. You know, and I've had students share that with me, you know, and to me that's important. You know, I'm not there just to teach about welding. You know, I share with my student, if all I've done is teach you how to weld, I've messed up. Because I want to teach you how to do life. You know, some of these students don't even know how to shake hands. You know, they'll come in and they'll barely grab your hand, and I'm like, you know what? I saw my mom almost yank a man's hand out of his socket because he went up to her like this. You're a man, you know, and she looked at me. You're gonna shake somebody's hand, shake their hand. Doesn't matter if they're male or female. If you're gonna go to an interview, okay, shake their hands, look them in the eye. And a lot of these students haven't had that. They don't get that from a lot of their parents. You know, I think I'm talking a little bit too much here.
No.
So that's me. I don't want to just teach welding, man. I want to teach them life. You know, skills that, you know, when I started teaching, I took it for granted that most of these kids knew how to read a tape measure. I was taught at an early age. You know, my mom, she had a tape measure, a ruler, a yardstick on the table. We had to come in and we needed to know what it was. So I'm teaching these kids, and I'm taking them up to an iron worker, and as I tell them, hey, I need you to measure out 6 1/4 inches. And it didn't occur to me, you know, till the second semester, some students were back away and let the ones that knew go first. And I realized these kids don't know how to read a tape measure. I took it for granted that they're taking a welding class that they know. And no, you know, a lot of these kids come in seeing what they see on YouTube, the glory part of it, you know, running nice welds and, you know, but they don't see the grinding part. They don't see the 90% of the prep work that it takes within the industry. And I teach that prep work. You know, I want them to understand that, you know what, welding's not for everyone. You know, another thing I share with them is, look, man, within 3 weeks, you'll know if this is for you or not. If it's not, step away before you lose your money and go get something that you can do. Don't just come to class because, you know, you're thinking you can do it when you know inside you can. I'm honest with them, man, and it's helped. You know, I believe, you know, with the parents that have come up and shared with me and stuff, and how I've been honest with their kids. You know, I believe that's what we need to do, man, with this younger generation, man. Just be honest with them. You know, don't hold back. Be honest, be consistent. You know, and share with them, you know, the knowledge that we have. You know.
Well, one thing we haven't really talked about, though, is what was the award that you got here today?
Well, it was the WIMCO AWS Educator of the Year. You know, wow. That was, thank you. Yeah, I never in a million years expected anything like that. My student, Annabelle Betts, who's sitting right over there, put me up, and I was chosen, you know, out of all the teachers in the country, which is just, it's an honor. You know, it's really cool because, okay, I'm doing something right. You know, I'm doing something right. It's being noticed, and it's a benefit, not just to me, but it's a benefit. The way I look at it is a benefit to the school and a benefit to the students. You know, for them to, hey, you know, wow, we got this. We're gonna go with this instructor. He's running this program that got this award from the American Welding Society. You know, and that's the way I look at it. You know, any honor that I get benefits the students. You know, as well as the program, because I'll be straight up, it gives me a little bit more pull within the system that I work in. You know, and if I can use that pull to change and benefit the students, I'm going to do it. You know, and that's, like I said, that's how it came about. I was nominated, and they picked me, and I'm just honored, man. I just never in a million years would have expected anything like this. You know, I'm not college educated. You know, when I went into this position, you know, I went up against guys that had a degree in welding, and I'm thinking, I'm not going to get this. No way I can get this position. And I ended up getting the position, and you know, I'm going to walk it through as long as I can. You know, as long as it's meant for me to be there, and during that time, you know, I want to push these kids to to make an impact. To make an impact the right way. I want to teach them about, life. I want to teach them about welding, math. A lot of these kids, when you bring up that there's math and welding, they're like, math? Wait a minute. Yeah, there's a lot of math and welding, and I want to make sure they understand that, and that's my thing. That's how I feel the award came about, by me doing the right thing, for the students. It's for them. For me, I'm good, man. I've been through it. I tell my students when they tell me, I tell them, look, man, they make these nice little masks now. Get used to wearing them under the helmet. And they ask me, why don't you? I said, dude, I've got 47 years in the trade. The damage is done. No matter, no matter what I swallow now, it's not going to change. So, but I don't want you guys to do, you guys have an advantage now that I didn't have back then. I had to swallow the smoke. A lot of the dirty welding that I did when I wasn't TIG welding, and even then there was sometimes that you had to swallow the smoke. We didn't have what these kids have now, So.
Well, Santiago, I'm going to go ahead and I think first off, I want to say thank you for sharing your story, but also congratulations again on the award. Obviously, throughout this interview, something that really stood out is that your passion for the kids, for the people that you're teaching, but also like you can show, it shows that like your pathway changes throughout your career and things like that. And so we really appreciate you taking the time. Matthew, do you got anything else you want to add?
Thanks for what you're doing for our industry and for the trades.
Well, I definitely thank you for having me on here. I appreciate you guys. Thank you very much.
Congratulations on the award.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I know you're 65. Is there any way? Are you on social media? Anybody want to follow you on social media?
Well, man, I have a ministry called Kayak Fishing with Christ.
Say that again.
Kayak Fishing with Christ.
Kayak Fishing with Christ.
We use the medium of kayak fishing to literally bring men, to a different way of life, because I do believe that when men change, the families follow. So we use that to bring men, you get a bunch of guys in the water fishing, all kinds of things happen, and that's what I do, and it's called Kayak Fishing with Christ, and that's something that's dear. We're in 13 states, 13 cities, about 9 states, and we're about, I think now we're up to about almost 6,000 members.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's my social media, man. That's my other passion that I have besides teaching this next generation.
Awesome.
So I appreciate you guys.
We'll share that in the show notes. Yeah, that's great. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you very much, guys.